Welcome back to Africa Update. I'm your host, Chiamaka Nwafor. As I said before we went on that short break, we are going to East Africa today. We're going to look at what's happening in the region. It's quite been rife with itself in the news a lot, what's happening in Tanzania, Uganda and Kenya. Those are actually three countries that we'll be taking a look at. Before we dive into that conversation, let's take a look at the East African map and see what's happening over there. Now you can see on your screen, the East African map has a culmination of all the countries in East Africa. There's some of them, there's a bit of a, what's the word I will use? Let's say controversies about, is this country in East Africa? Is it in the Horn of Africa? And so forth and so on. So we see things like, okay, Kenya, Ethiopia is in East Africa, Burundi is in East Africa, or is it in the Horn of Africa? But over time you could answer those questions by yourself. So when you have time, we apologize for that mix-up on the screen, but when you have time, you can look at the map of East Africa and get a clearer picture of the about 12 to 20 countries that are in the eastern part of Africa, although some might have some controversies around them. Like some people say Zimbabwe is in East Africa. However, it's called a Southern African country. Now, joining me this morning to look at the issues plaguing that beautiful region is Kenyan, who is currently in Lagos, Nigeria, to receive an award for his hard work. Is Dr. Livingstone Makori. He is a governance and life purpose coach, a certified career analyst, but he's a leadership and governance scholar. And it's on that note that we're having him join us this morning on the program. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. Dr. Makori? Dr. Makori, if you can hear us?
Yes, thank you very much for hosting me.
All right.
Yes, I can hear you. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Oh, I hope you're enjoying Lagos today.
Lagos is good. I'm enjoying Lagos. I'm the Navy here at Lagos, at the Admiralty Complex, meeting other Africans, making change in Africa, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for coming. Now, let's get into the East African conversation. You're a Kenyan, but, I'm sure you have an idea, because it's mostly the same kind of issues around the region. Now, we've seen protests over in Kenya that happened last year with the bill, and it resulted into other things. Equally this year, more protests has come up. We go over to Tanzania due to the elections. Protesters coming up. It seems like the region is rife with a lot of young people saying, no, we don't want this, we want better. What's your take on that, and how do you think leadership has actually responded to these situations?
Thank you very much. I'm glad you have mentioned that. We are witnessing a change of public participation in governance in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. First to mention, my name is Dr. Livingstone Makori. I live in Nairobi, Kenya. Nairobi, Kenya is the capital city of East Africa, to say so, the economic hub of the East Africa. And when you talk about the youth analyst, then you are looking at how is the democratic space opening up. We are witnessing a change in population sizes. 70% of the East African youth are youth, especially in Uganda, which has one of the youngest ages in Africa. So when you look at this, there are so many changes which have happened. Previously, we used to fight for independence through the bushes. Nowadays, our youth are on social media. So in East Africa, you see the change of demographic space participation, and youth are very active in how they are being governed and how they want to see things done. So it's a good space. If it's harnessed well, then Africa raises up better through East Africa.
We seem to see a declining trust in government from mostly the youths, really, actually, as you say, the demographic is changing. What do you think are the leadership gaps that is actually driving this decline in trust from the youths in government?
If you can come up a little bit, I can't hear that.
We seem to see a declining in trust from the youths in government. Now, what do you think are the leadership gaps that has brought about this decline in trust?
Youth are looking at transparency, youth are looking at open governance, youth are looking at things done in a transparent way. And I don't think we have been in that space earlier enough. In our ages of newspaper, ages of magazine and radio, things were not as open as they are now. So if you look at the youth of East Africa now, they are watching their news on, they are seeing news breaking each and every time. They are on Twitter, they are on Instagram, they are on Facebook. So they are able to get this information. So the youth in East Africa are looking for open governance. They are looking as to see how leaders are accountable. And that's what is fueling the discussion you see around youth rising up to see, can things be done in a better way? Can we see how things are being done? Can we audit this government? So that government audit is what is bringing out their pricing. But in the actual sense, we are all growing. East Africa is growing in terms of citizen participation. It's also very important when you see young people participating in governance structures. They are participating in voting. They are participating in analyzing the constitution. A case in study is in Kenya when we were doing the 2024 finance bill. Youth from across the country went online, even interpreting the finance policy in their own languages so that even the mothers in the villages can be able to understand it. For me, it's an interesting public space, interesting level of governance, and trust is very key in these discussions.
All right, now, since you brought us to Kenya, let's take a look into Kenya and talk about it. First, do you think there is a political polarization in Kenya? And if there is, how do you think it's affecting governance stability?
I could not say there is political polarization. What's happening is a change of governance. Youth, as a governance scholar, I'm looking at this youth need to be led differently. So we can't call it polarization. When you look at the youth in Nairobi, Kisumu, Mombasa, all of them are speaking the same language, even those in the villages. Albeit there are also differences in terms of political parties. Again, you understand, Kenya is a multi-party democracy. So people will be entitled to their own opinion. But generally, even among their political parties, youth want open democracy, youth want open discussion, and youth are open to discussing issues affecting them. They are now very more conscious of what's affecting them and how it can be handled.
Okay. Over in Uganda, we have the issue of the presidency. Of course, it is coming back again. But do you think that long-running incumbency has actually affected the way leadership and governance has taken place in that country?
I give it to Ugandans and how they choose their leaders. But again, incumbency helps to enhance policy, long-term policy. When you have an incumbent president doing well, long-term policy can well be enhanced. Although, again, it limits people from having fresh form of leadership. As a Kenyan from where I sit, and since it's a democracy, if Ugandans want their president, Yoweri Museveni, we give it to them. It's democracy. But again, that has advantages and disadvantages. One, for advantages, there's continuity of service. But for disadvantages, again, they are lacking some fresh some different thinking. But again, back to Ugandans. If they like Museveni, we are good with it. If they vote in Bobi Wine, good again.
Over in Tanzania, what has the governance situation been like? You think it's helping the people? You think it's making the country go to the next place and stage on the global scene?
We saw Samia Suluhu Hassan came in when the president died, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. Samia came in with a more reconstituted tone and again, more diplomatic. I remember during those days, he even called the competitors who were there to come back to Uganda. Tundu Lissu was able to come to Tanzania. They met. There have been a little bit of issues towards the elections which were done. Many people have died during that process. But again, I like the constituted tone President Suluhu has made out of this. She has called on, in parliament, if you watch the parliament of Tanzania, she was there urging Tanzanians to be patriotic. She was remorseful of what might have happened, the number of people who might have died. So it's a growing process, especially in a country like Tanzania, where the ruling party has very serious structures all the way to the villages. It's quite a situation, but I know Tanzanians are resilient. Tanzanians will pull out of it. They're also learning. Their youth are now open to discuss Their youth are now open to be engaged. So my urge to President Suluhu and any other president in this East Africa is to listen to the youth and make sure the youth issues are taken care of. If that is done, then we'll have a better country. After all, we are building this world for the youth. East Africa is for the youth, not for for us who are maybe advanced in age. So if we are able to listen to them, guide them, give them guidance, mentor them, we'll have a good East Africa as a people.
Dr. Makori, are you saying that you're not a youth? You look very youthful to me. Okay.
You know, I'm old by thinking.
Okay,
yes, I'm youth. But again, the world is for the youth. Yeah,
okay.
sure.
All right. Now, let's look at the government institutions in these countries. And by extension, East Africa as a whole. Look at Burundi, Djibouti, Madagascar even had an issue just a few weeks ago with all that happening. Do you think that these institutions are strong enough to offer accountability and transparency to its people?
Some good progress have been done. If you look at Tanzania, we have the Anti-Corruption Commission, Takakuru, doing a good job. You go to Uganda, they have enhanced the Auditor General's office. Come to Kenya, we have the judiciary, which has been very bold in their decisions. So some good progress is happening, but I think there are some few things affecting how service delivery is done. And one of them is corruption and a lack of open governance and how decisions, policies are done. Probably those are the areas that the East African countries need to work on as they follow through what has happened in Kenya in the judiciary, what is Takakuru doing in Tanzania, what are we doing, the Auditor General is doing in Uganda. Those are some of the key lessons they can learn from, see where weaknesses are, and then enhance that. But I believe East Africa is making progress, and we keep on seeing better things happening as we move forward.
You mentioned corruption. How do you think that this is affecting public sector performance across the region?
Corruption, to speak, is just a huge issue, not only in East Africa, but even in Nigeria here. Few cases where corruption affects us is where corruption affects how service is being delivered, the delay in service delivery, because again, if those who are perpetuating are not corrupted, then things may not move. But again, corruption is hindering opportunities for the youth. Projects which will have taken up, they are not taking up because maybe of corruption. That's a big issue to any country, not only in Africa, but even in developed world where there are issues of corruption. That's a big issue for the country. So the way forward is to see how do we reduce this corruption? How do we have structures that can be able to work around that and ensure that service reaches to the people? Through corruption, you find licensing fees are high. It takes long to get a license to start a business so that you can employ a young person. So quite a huge challenge across the world.
Okay, you've equally taken us to another part of the conversation, unemployment. Why does it seem like the number is quite high in the region? What's happening, especially in these three countries that we're looking at today? We seem to be doing so well economically. You said Nairobi is the economic capital of East Africa, but unemployment rates are quite high. What's the reason, and how could it actually be, stemmed?
I was having a similar discussion yesterday with one of your sister stations. We are seeing there's a growth in economy partly, but the employment is not growing. Why is this? One is the economies. In which sectors of the economy are growing? We are growing sectors of the economy like oil, gas. We have sectors like how do you call this one? We have sectors in I've mentioned oil, gas, and telecommunication. That's what I wanted. When you look at these sectors, they don't require very many people to work. They mostly rely on technology. So one of the things we need to do as a country and as East Africa is to make sure that sectors that observe people. Look at the agricultural sector in Kenya. Tanzania has a lot of land to do farming. What are we doing that? To make sure that we have industries that are doing processing, to make sure that the SMEs are funded and are able to generate some more income and more employment. So that's one of the key issues around it. But again, the issue of unemployment, which I really want to talk with a lot of authority, is caused about by skills. There's a lot of skills misgap between what the institutions are offering in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, and what the market really wants. When you look at the upcoming skills, talk of AI, artificial intelligence, are we prepared? Are we there? The answer is no. Our education system has not evolved from what was being offered in the 1990s to what we do now. So those are the issues around unemployment. So if we are able to focus our energy on high absorption industries, labor-intensive industries like agriculture, tourism. East Africa is huge. In Nairobi, you have the big five. In Tanzania, you have the big five. We have the biggest of the economic, of the tourism attractions. If we really focus on this, then we'll be able to create employment. So give our skills the right, give our kids the right skills, empower our institutions, higher learning institutions to train on the digital skills, and then we'll have a good country to employ all the people, or a good number of the people.
All right, we're going to go in on a short break, and when we return, the conversation continues. Please just stay with us. Welcome back to Africa Update here on Trust TV. We've been speaking to Dr. Livingstone Makori, a Kenyan who is a governance and leadership scholar, and we've been talking about the issues in East Africa, particularly Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. Now, you mentioned one of the sectors that could aid the unemployment situation, but away from tourism, what other sectors do you think would help with a mass employment, especially for these three countries and by defect, or rather, by effect, the entire East African region?
Thank you very much again. I've mentioned about tourism, which is every country in East Africa has tourism attractions. We have Masai Mara in Kenya. We have, several of them. We have Longonot in Tanzania, and people are moving out. We have in Mombasa, if you go to Mombasa, Kilifi, there are good places there, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, go to Uganda, good places to be. So one of the areas that we need to enhance is tourism. Number two is on agriculture and the value addition. Are we doing agriculture, better value addition? If we are able to do better value addition, we have bananas in Uganda, we have many crops being grown in East Africa. How do we make sure that those crops, once we harvest them, we are able to keep them for quite a longer time and be able to do value addition? So that's a very key component of it. The other one is the digital economy. The youth of East Africa are very good on digital media. Go to Kenya, the digital hub of East Africa. But do we have internet even in our villages? As much as this youth want to sell their produce online, can be able to do online jobs, we don't have internet. So one of the other areas that we need to work on is the creative economy. I've seen Kenya. When you look at the map, we are one of the best in TikTok. We are good in social media. But how are you using that for business? Again, this goes back to training, skills development. If we are able to build our skills around those economies, those areas, then we'll be able to assure our youth some form of employment. So what do I ask again? Review of our curriculum, training, skills that we are giving our youth so that they are able to fit into those specific industries and become engines of progress. We have now most people moving to urban areas. Rural urban migration is big. There's an issue of housing. I know Kenya is doing something on affordable housing, and indeed other East African countries. That could create some form of employment. But as these youth come to capital cities, then we need to look at what are the other sustainable skills they need to be able to thrive, other than the normal jobs in the construction industry. The other one is waste management. We have a lot of waste going, and in line with the green agenda, then which jobs can we create around the green energy? Let it be solar, let it be maybe, we are talking about waste management. What can we create around the green economy? Those are some of the few sectors I see. If they are well harnessed, then East African youth will have an opportunity for employment.
All right, so how far or how well do you think that the governments of the East African region, particularly Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, have actually walked towards these sectors you've mentioned, agriculture, because it's very important to have food, regardless of whether you're going to export it out or not, just to sustain the country. Waste management, equally, this is a problem if things are not done properly. Climate change and all that. So how well do you think that the government of this, the region, and those three countries are doing well to see that this is a viable economical path for anybody, especially the youths?
Progress has been made. When you look at those sectors, there's some good progress. In Kenya, we have the affordable housing. The government is doing some work there. Albeit some few issues around those who are contributing. The government is doing some work there around affordable housing. In Tanzania, we have agriculture. Some strides have been made, but I believe we can do better. We can do better as a country, as a region, to make sure that those sectors are working. So the progress is there, but not much. Much is expected from our governments.
Okay, now let's look at the frustrations. Unemployment in itself can cause frustrations in people when you're seemingly idle, doing nothing and nothing to take your mind away. There's so much scrolling on the internet you can do. Now, how do you think youth frustrations are influencing political situations in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda?
They usually say an idle mind is the devil's workshop. But in this time and age, we say an idle mind is a social media tool. So our youth, for lack of jobs, they are finding something they can do online and scrolling through, fueling their frustrations. But I think this frustration can be turned into an engine for success. So as much as there's no unemployment, then one of the things I've kept on mentioning is skills development. If we are able to give our youth the right skills, they are able to make use of this internet. As much as we talk about youth and social media frustrations, these economies have to grow if we are really able to move forward, because we have the youth, most educated youth. If you go to Kenya, for example, we have more than 60 universities and colleges, TVET. Most people are educated. I've been here in Nigeria, even an Okada man is speaking English, meaning they are well educated. Even the lady who is cooking ofufu along the road, they are speaking English. They are well educated. The same way in East Africa. So the challenge we have are opportunities, the population to keep on growing as we move on, and we want this population to grow. We have the youth population will keep on growing. Africa is adding 220 million into the job market every year. So one of the things that must be done is proper skilling. This starts from very low. And allow me to mention something. In Kenya, we run the Corporate Career Academy, a social enterprise, where we are supporting young people to get skills. We are the organizers of the East African Employability Summit. We did a policy brief to the East African community, showing them what are some of the few things that ought to be done. So to mention a little bit about what we do as at Corporate Career Academy, again, supporting these young people to understand what are the skills of the market, what do they need to do, lead them to mentors, link them to mentors, get them opportunities for internships so that they are able to develop in their skills and get the skills of the market to be able to move forward. And again, training them on employability. I believe this and many others could be initiatives that will help people. So individually, as a person, where I sit, and all of us in East Africa, we have a role to play. I may not have the energy to bring together an organization like Corporate Career Academy. Someone may not have the energy to do that, but they have opportunity to mentor someone. They have opportunity to provide some level of employment, speak to young people, give them hope. I think that's what we really need to do as an East Africa if we are able to move, so that we work together. Again, one of the challenges is transfer of skills. How do we transfer skills from one country to another? Clear framework. For the East African community to work, then there must be easy transferable of skills, transferability of skills, that a Kenyan can work in Uganda, a Ugandan can work in Tanzania, and that will create a lot of employment opportunities for all of us. Thank you very much.
All right, now, one of the important things you've mentioned, you just said transfer of skills, but I'm going to go away from skills transfer to talk about youth migration. What's your take about youth migration in East Africa? Are the youths living in droves to find better or greener pastures in other parts of the continent or in other parts of the world?
Yeah, what you are seeing in Nigeria is what's happening across East Africa. I passed by the embassy, the Dubai embassy, and I saw lines and lines of Nigerians who want to go to either Dubai, go to other countries, go to America. The same case is happening in Kenya. We have guys who want to go out and seek for employment. For one, we cannot blame them. They are looking for opportunities. Every person needs a better life. We can't blame them. Is this skills transfer a problem? Not really a problem. The problem is, are they getting the right jobs? Have we trained them the right skills so that even when they go out there, they are doing jobs that they did study for? I have had a discussion with a number of youth who go out of East Africa. The jobs they do is not what they did study in school. So then, as we find it a way of taking our people to work outside the country, and indeed in Kenya and in East Africa, indeed, they are bringing a lot of foreign investment. They are investing in their country. So we rather have them move if they are going to do jobs that matter. So then what do we do as a country? Learning institutions and indeed even government need to set up structure and see which are the skills required for our people so that when our people go out of the country, they don't go to do manual jobs. They go to do professional jobs. If we are to have more of the people doing professional jobs, then we'll have even transfer of skills. They'll work there for 3 years, come back with those skills to develop East Africa. But so long as we are taking guys to do manual labor, then we are not going to change. Actually, it's another form of, can I call it colonialism? Yes. If we are taking our people with low skills to go and work in those countries, whereas we can be able to take technocrats, guys who can be able to earn more money and bring money to East Africa, then we have a big problem there. So my urge to government, we cannot prevent anyone from moving out of the country, especially when we don't have adequate opportunities. We have a program in Kenya called Kazi Maju, which means Kenyans going to work outside the country. And many other countries, of course, have their own plans. What we need to do is to make sure that the countries where we have signed trade agreements, the countries where we have signed labor agreements, our people have decent jobs.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to cut you short. We have to actually wrap up the show right now. And it's been a pleasure having you, Dr. Livingstone Makori, talking to us about the situation of youth, governance, unemployment and leadership in Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda, and by extension, the East African region as a whole. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. We look forward to speak more, but away from speaking, we need to go to action. Each of us take action to support the youth. I'm seeing some good work happening in Nigeria, bringing the Africa together. All of us come together and find solutions to these problems. Stop talking more, start working less from where we are and build a better country. Thank you very much and a better continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And that's it for Africa Update today. For more of our programs, these are documentaries. Do well to follow us on social media platforms and our YouTube live stream. I've been your host, Chiamaka Nwafor. Same time, same place next week. Bye for now.